The sky above Red Hollow was the color of old iron, hard, cold, and waiting to break. By noon, wind tore through the valley like a warning. Loose boards clattered on the schoolhouse, dust swirled along the empty street, and everyone with sense shuttered their doors. Everyone except Clara Bennett. She stood in front of her cabin at the edge of town, hammer in hand, trying to fasten a warped shutter. Her fingers were red from cold and grit. Behind her, 3 little girls huddled by the stove, the oldest trying to hush the youngest as the wind moaned through the cracks. Clara didn't look up when the first thunder rolled. She was used to storms. They came often, out of the sky, out of people's mouths. Ever since her husband's death, Red Hollow had treated her like a burden. Some whispered she was cursed. Others said she brought her troubles on herself. 3 girls, the women at church murmured. No sons to carry the name. She'd learned not to listen. But silence could hurt worse than words. When the clouds turned black and the wind howled like a freight train, Clara tied the door shut with rope and prayed the roof would hold. Lightning split the sky. Dust turned to rain so thick she couldn't see the barn 20 paces away. Then through the roar came a sound, hooves pounding, steady as a heartbeat. She wiped rain from her eyes and saw a shape emerge from the storm. A tall man on a dark horse, oilskin coat whipping in the wind. He pulled up by the porch and dismounted. Without a word, he tied the reins and stepped toward her. "You shouldn't be out in this," he said, his voice low, carrying easily over the wind. Clara gripped the hammer tighter. "I don't have a choice." The man glanced at the trembling shutter, then at the small faces watching from the doorway. "Then let me." Before she could protest, he took the hammer from her hand. His movements were calm, deliberate. In the span of a few minutes, he had the boards fastened tight. When it was done, he stepped back, rain dripping from the brim of his hat. "Name's Jonas Hale. My ranch is west of the ridge." "I know who you are," Clara said softly. Everyone did. Jonas was a widower, a quiet man who kept to himself and was said to have a heart as big as the plains. He looked past her at the flickering lamplight inside. "You and the girls got enough wood to last the night?" She hesitated, then shook her head. He nodded once and turned to his horse. "I'll bring some." "You don't have to." But he was already gone into the storm. The wind raged for hours. Clara moved the girls to the hearth, feeding the last sticks into the fire. Just as the flames began to fade, the door banged open and Jonas stepped in, carrying an armful of split wood and his coat around the youngest girl, who had wandered outside looking for him. He said nothing, just knelt to rebuild the fire, water pooling beneath his boots. When the blaze caught again, the room filled with light and warmth. "Thank you," Clara said, voice breaking. Jonas tipped his hat slightly. "Storm's not done yet. Mind if I waited out here?" She nodded. "Please." He sat near the wall, quiet, eyes on the flames. The girls whispered among themselves, giggling at the sight of the giant stranger dripping water onto the floor. When the youngest offered him a small biscuit, he smiled, a rare, shy curve of the mouth that softened the lines on his face. "Much obliged, miss." By morning, the storm had passed. The world outside was washed clean and silent. Clara stepped out to find branches scattered across the yard, but the cabin still standing. Jonas was already stacking the remaining wood, sleeves rolled up, steam rising from his breath in the chill. "You didn't have to stay," she said. He shrugged. "Didn't see the sense in leavin' till I knew you were safe." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. It had been years since anyone had said that word to her. Safe. When he mounted his horse, the girls waved. Jonas tipped his hat to them, then to her. "You'll be all right now." "I will," she said. But as she watched him ride away, the emptiness in her chest felt heavier than before. Weeks passed. The storm faded into memory, but Jonas didn't. Every few days, he'd appear, sometimes with flour, sometimes with firewood, sometimes just to check the fence lines. He never asked for payment, never stayed long. One evening, Clara found him mending her barn door. "You can't keep fixin' everything," she said, crossing her arms. He looked up, a hint of a smile in his eyes. "Someone has to. I can manage." "I know you can," he said softly. "Doesn't mean you should have to." Her throat tightened. For years she'd worn strength like armor, but his kindness slipped through the cracks. Spring came late that year, but it came. Grass pushed through the hard ground, the river rose again, and the ranches began to breathe. Clara's girls started helping Jonas with his cattle drives, earning coins and laughter. The town folk, seeing her side by side with the quiet rancher, began to soften. Still, Clara kept her guard up. One evening, as they repaired a corral together, Jonas spoke without looking at her. People talk, he said. They always do. He nodded. They used to say I was a fool for living alone. And now they say I'm a fool for coming around here so often. Clara smiled despite herself. Are they wrong? He leaned on the post. Maybe not. As months turned into a year, Red Hollow began to change its story about Clara Bennett. The woman once whispered about became the woman others went to for advice, for a kind word, for strength. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Jonas brought over a wagon full of lumber. What's this? She asked. New barn roof, he said. Or a house, if you'd rather. She stared at him. Jonas, I can't. You can, he interrupted gently. I just figured you might want to build what's next. Her breath caught at the words. Why me? He looked out at the horizon, voice low. Because you never stopped trying when everyone else did. For a long moment, neither spoke. The world felt still, the air golden with dusk. Then she reached out and rested her hand on his. Then let's build it, she said. The new barn rose slowly, board by board, nail by nail. The girls helped, the neighbors joined, and for the first time in years, laughter carried across the Bennett place. When the last beam was set, Jonas handed Clara a small carving, a piece of cedar shaped like a bird. What's this? Used to belong to my wife, he said quietly. She said it meant freedom. Clara closed her fingers around it. I think she'd like that it's here. He nodded, eyes shining in the light. I reckon she would. Summer came blazing, but peace held. The fields flourished, the girls grew tall, and the town learned something new about mercy. On the night of the harvest dance, Clara stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the lanterns swing. Jonas approached, hat in hand. Didn't think I'd see you here, she said. Didn't think I'd be asked, he replied. She smiled and extended her hand. Then I'm a skin. They danced slowly, the air warm, the world quiet except for the fiddle's sweet cry. People watched, but for once Clara didn't care. When the music stopped, Jonas leaned close. You built something beautiful here. So did you, she whispered. Years later, when folks told stories of Red Hollow, they spoke of the rancher who rode through a storm and the woman who turned ruin into home. They said he saved her. But those who knew better said she saved him right back. And on still evenings, when the sun dropped low behind the ridge,